everyone, welcome to week 5 of CIS 108, and this week we talked about the concept of formative and summative assessments and how teachers gather valuable information about what their students are learning to make adjustments to their teaching and determine if they need to reteach, teach in a different way, continue to integrate assignments to practice and rehearse certain skills students will need later, or if the students have mastered a subject. And your assignment this week focuses on creating a formative assessment. So we're going to review the content from class, and you can always go back and review the materials and resources in your week 5 folder to gain more insight if you weren't able to attend the class this week or if you need some reinforcement of what we discussed in the class. So here you see our very clear discussion, our working definition of formative assessment versus summative assessment. And this should help jog your memory with some of the notes that we made. All of you contributed to this working definition based on your in-class reading and the video that we watched. So if you're not sure if the definition still seems confusing to you for each of those, then please go back and review the resources in your folder. However, just to review, the key differences between these two are formative assessments are used during instruction to inform the teacher's instruction. These happen frequently along the way when you're teaching and could happen multiple times even in one class session or one lesson. However, summative assessment is sort of a summary, as we like to say, of all of the different learning that takes place in a unit or in a semester. And summative assessment is usually tied to mastery of a concept. So the teacher gives a test or a major project to determine what students have learned, and it usually connects with a grade as well. This is the final test, the last exam, to see if students have mastered the concept. It doesn't have to be a pencil and paper test, it could be a performance exam, but still the concept is that it happens at the end versus the formative, which happens along the way to help the teacher make adjustments to his or her teaching. So now that you know what you need to about formative and summative assessment, let's take some time to talk about how you're going to apply it in week 5. This week the major assignment is to create a formative assessment based on a scenario that you've selected. These are outlined in your week 5 folder. There's lots of different options for topics and age level, so choose the one you feel most comfortable with. And like our lesson plan, there will be an implementation. However, you're not going to be working with a child or a set of children this time. You're going to be sharing with the class. So it's more of a presentation. You're going to give us an overview of the tool that you decided to use for your formative assessment. Give us a little bit of background information as to how you created the formative assessment and the choices that you made along the way in your design process. This seems like a very work is how I will grade your work, how I will score it, and we're going to take a moment to go through and make sure that you understand all of the expectations in detail for this assignment. So the first thing I'm looking for is learning outcomes. I want to see that you've clearly delineated what it is that you want the students to learn, and that those outcomes, what you want them to learn, are reflected in the questions. So you need to make sure that what you want them to learn is what you're actually assessing them on. This seems simple, but sometimes can be tricky. The second thing is the length and duration. Depending on the age you work with, you have to consider their reading and writing abilities, their attention span, and the ability that they have to work with a technology tool. Formative assessments are usually short, quick snapshots of student understanding. So you don't want to design a lengthy, cumbersome formative assessment that the students spend more time on the actual technology or working through the problems. Then you'll find that they're frustrated and you don't yield much data. Speaking of data, one of the items you'll be graded on is the item types. Like I said, are you using multiple choice? Are you using short answer, long answer? Is there a creation part of the formative assessment? Are the students going to record or perform or create something in the form of art to show that they're understanding? For this, you should think about how you're going to get the most information possible. And the example that I usually give is if you ask students to choose a multiple choice answer, then you only know if they guessed the right answer. If you give several, you can look for patterns to see if they understand the concept. But if it's multiple choice, you don't know where the misunderstanding is happening. So asking students why and how questions, having them explain their work, or show what their brain was thinking during math often leads us to a better understanding of where students' learning goes wrong, or if they have a thorough understanding. The same thing applies with reading, writing, science, and social studies, or any of the social emotional skills that you may be assessing.